the idea that we have project boards for taking, a particular feature or something, that we plan and we're executing and we want to follow the cards, I guess, like homepage. So you could kind of see as you're not cluttering yourself. You're looking at homepage as a particular feature, and that worked well for features. But when I tried to reason about what an OKR board would look like, it wasn't really fun. Like I didn't know what kind of columns or what can we do to be able to relate things to OKRs. And I thought, okay, maybe we should explore milestones. We did talk about this a bit in a Sunday meeting, if I'm not mistaken. And milestones, I think, are under issues. The difference between project and labels versus milestones is that you can only have one milestone for an issue or a PR. You can't have it under more than one label or under more than one project. The milestone is just the one. And basically, I think the trickle down here is how I would like to take our OKRs. So OKRs lead to some milestones, which then allow everyone to say, well, this issue drives toward this objective. And those milestones would then be potentially key results that we're driving at. And all the issues related to them would be underneath them. And so that would be, just one example. And then I guess T1 features. So yeah, so the Netlify thing, I didn't fully think this through, right? I'm proposing it as a workflow that is parallel to projects. So people use projects in the way that is functional right now, and that's good. And this is not contending with it, but just a parallel system to say, I'm sure Netlify is a key result of one of our objectives. And so, by doing a better management effort than I can, I guess, we would have milestones that, trace back to the OKR doc. And you said the doc itself landed on master. So here's also, my best way to paraphrase what we discussed in that meeting for the first set. Did that kind of relate the idea?
Thanks for explaining that. My initial impression of this is that if that helps people visualize what they're working on and how it relates to OKRs like that define our scope, I'm +1 for it. Is this something that, like you mentioned that people are already using projects and that seems to be working quite well. Is this something that has been tried, like people are already sort of using it, or is it something that we'd need to implement and spend a little bit of time just building up?
So I think the best way to answer this question is this format is borrowed from a previous experience that was used in I think ComCom and other places, obviously. So what I just conveyed is really, how do you go, like, how would you add linkable things here that point people to a dashboard of some sort, or a syndicated thing like issue or project or something, so that they would know what progress is happening here, for instance. So I would say like a level 3 sublist, like a nested list under this key result would say milestones, this milestone and that milestone. You would add links literally to the milestones that contribute to this key result of this objective. So it's mainly just a framework that I personally played around with to make sure it would work. But I think I'm just proposing it as here, this could work. Do we want to do this? And if we want to do this, it might be actually something that, ComCom and other places may want to borrow as well. So, we're inventing it together, I guess. Sounds fair.
Yeah, as a next action, adding links to this one, to this particular document, so folks could actually click on, say, each individual objective or key result and go and find issues or PRs that were in progress. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah,
Uh,
so Netlify would be one of the bullet points under this one, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Maybe, I don't know. And then when they click on Netlify as a bullet point under this key result, they would come to this view, and then they can tell from this view um, how far along, right?
mhm.
So it's like 0% complete. I'm sure when we're using it, it would actually not just reflect the example, but rather have more accurate representation, some closed issues, better descriptions. Yeah, um, I guess that's it.
Thanks. I think it's a good use of GitHub's features and a process that folks would be familiar with if they're using, say, Agile, which seems to use the concept of milestones. So I'm +1 for it. Any comments from folks here in the meeting?
I think so far this is a good progress and good start. But I feel that I would like to see that us have a more collaborative effort in terms of getting to those milestones. Like because I'm not familiar. I'm like I've been trying to figure out like the schedule uh for like getting all this bug fixes and stuff like that. But there's been a lot of back and forth. So I'm not sure as to how we're going to be solving, the issues as well as doing development going further. Just because if there's been so much back and forth, we had the hackathon, but then they got like canceled. I'm not sure like what's happening. So I would like to see that part. But I think this is a good start in terms of getting started.
Yeah, so the concern that you raised right there, I think that is why I was driven to look into this. It's a shared
Okay.
concern. Trust me, so we can have a lot of side channel back and forth,
Hmm.
and then we
Hmm.
find like three people are converging in one way, and others are in a different way, and then everyone will say, "But I followed the OKR," right?
Yeah.
So the idea that every is chainable means that there is always context and clarity as you click through things before you add more things.
Okay.
And I that's really the intent here is that if you're going to dig and say I'm going to put something here, then you will know that there's already something else, or if you're the first one that deep into the OKR itself. And then if that's the case, then we also have to add to the contributor doc um, that this is the process that we want to follow until it doesn't work for something, and then we can improve it. Um,
Okay.
right? So
Yes.
yeah, all right, thanks.
Any other comments from folks? Okay, I'll take the silence as the end of this particular discussion. If you do have something on your mind and you'd prefer to share it async, please, the issue is still open. It's issue 441 on node.js.dev. Feel free to continue discussion there. Sala, is it okay if we remove the agenda tag from this one?
Yeah, so could I suggest that we just indicate what we decided in the meeting here as well? Because I think like, we want to have a label to say approved in meeting, or, some of the issues have like mysterious context missing in the end. And then we have too many of those that we don't really know what we decide in the meeting. So how would we summarize this outcome that we?
I just put in some notes into the minutes. I will copy that over. It's very short. Ideally, these minutes are more complete, and we're actually able to PR them in to use as reference. But we haven't been doing that for a bit. But for now, I'll copy in the notes for this particular section into a comment, label it consensus, and if anyone wants to disagree with that, again, feel free to comment async.
All right, thank you so much. That definitely addresses it. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Saleh. Thanks for working through this with us. I will move on to the next issue, issue 438, which is requesting access for Node.js CrowdIn GitHub user to integrate with CrowdIn. Dropping the issue into the chat here, and let's just dig into it. I believe this was opened by Zeke, who was here last meeting 2 weeks ago to give us a little bit of context around this.
If you need something, I can give you more context, but like I don't see here any like specific moments. We just need some access to your repo to make possible configure integration between GitHub and CrowdIn, because we already configured connection between Node.js website and Node.js docs, and we're still waiting for your approval and for your like permissions. We're waiting that you give us a permission to Node.js CrowdIn account, because we still need it. If you have any questions or objections, I'm here to answer and give you more context. But in general, we're just waiting your like approval and actions. Okay, Rich ready to do this for now. If the team haven't any objections, if everyone agree, we can close it and give a permission.
I'm personally +1 on this. I'm sorry we've been a blocker on this one. It seems like y'all have been ready to move forward on this, and we might have been the ones who have been dragging our feet. But I have no personal objections. I'm really excited the work in IIT MN has been progressing, and yeah, very exciting to incorporate some of this into our work. No objections. Any comments from the team?
No, I think we can go forward with this. I think you know, it's been a while, and I think it's a good thing that we're getting it done.
So yeah, seems like everyone okay. Ben says okay. Paul says okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I think someone has a question. Trot has a question.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. And I apologize if. Oh, that's weird. I apologize if this is answered in the issue already. But does the bot merely need write access, or does it need administrative access?
I think we provide the list of. I'm not sure actually what kind of access we need, but we need to have a write permissions to the repo. So probably it should be admin or maintainer. I'm not sure. Let's try with
maintainer, right?
Yeah,
it would be maintainer, right?
Yeah, I think yes, because I haven't access to CrowdIn, Node.js CrowdIn account, so I can't check what kind of permissions we already have for other repos. So I'm not sure with that, but
okay, I'll add it. I'll add it with maintainer access, and if that proves to be not enough, just open another issue or just ping me on Twitter or something.
Okay, great. I will ping Zeke and he will try to integrate. Thank you. Thank you. It's so quick.
It's done.
Yeah, thank you. It's great. Great news. So let's go with the next question in agenda.
Wonderful. That was efficient. It's exactly what these meetings are for. Unblocking stuff. Okay, I'll just make a quick note that we have resolved this. And for now, and is it okay to remove the agenda label from this from 438? Alex?
Yeah, I would say it is. I'm not Alex, but go ahead, Alex.
Sorry, what number of the issue?
It seems like it's okay. I just wanted to get a go ahead that we're going to remove the working the web server.
Removing this from the agenda so it doesn't show up on the agenda at the next meeting.
Oh, yeah, you can remove it.
But yeah, thanks for pushing the issue through. Great. Next item, CI, consider alternatives. This is an ongoing discussion, issue 436, dropping this into the chat right now. There is also a related pull request for 60 that is still open, that is linked in that, but I won't drop it in there just to not add noise and confuse people. But if you scroll down, you can access it. What is the current state of the discussion for issue 436? Alrighty. Seems like there might not be any strong opinions from folks in the meeting about issue 436, and the person who opened it was unavailable today. So unless someone did strongly want to discuss it, I punt this to the next meeting.
So can I just raise just one related point here? We were talking about Netlify, and this issue is one of those issues that relates to that topic. So I'm not sure if we're picking up this topic in this meeting. I don't know if there's any input maybe from folks on whether or not we want to push this. We want to, yeah. So I think it's a topic that keeps coming up every time we try to write code, and we're reminded that the Google GCB run can sometimes be a funny experience. So any folks here who want to talk about that a bit?
I got to go in a couple minutes, but the GCB run stuff has kind of been a bit of a blocking problem for me the last 24 hours or so, trying to get some updates into GitHub Actions that are resulting in security warnings from GitHub, and it doesn't reliably the posting the post a comment hook doesn't seem to be working. It either doesn't work reliably, or else there's something going on. I don't know what it is, but there's a bunch of PRs that I've been reluctant to land because I think one of them might be breaking that functionality, and I don't know if that is really anything we can talk much about here right now, but there's that.
Yeah, I've had the same kind of pain of GCB run. So I did notice that, I think his name's Nathan, started using GitHub Actions in the master branch. I don't know if that's going to help. It probably will in some way, but I kind of brought this up a while ago, to consider alternatives, and that's what Saul was speaking about. As a user, as a developer, not being able to see the logs in the CI is kind of a big deal for me. Like, case in point, Chart, he had a failure and we can't see why. So
yeah, and
whatever alternative we decide on, we need to be able to see that, whether it's Netlify or something else. We need to be able to see the logs while still kind of maintaining security with any special keys and stuff.
Yeah, so I think we tried to solve the GCB run problem by saying let's document the, you know, funny results that can come out, that we basically have no logs, and we were trying to, use our mental ability to try to infer from the unknown, and that wouldn't work, obviously. So definitely this idea that if the worst, you should get a log that tells you don't go crazy trying all these odd permutations. And so the log is a good thing, but also the second thing that I keep also feeling inclined to want to bring up is if I fork and somebody is PRing against my branch on my user, not on Node.js dev, and that they should also be able to use the free open source for forever kind of CI infrastructure. So they are able to not wait until they are merging the big collaborative effort against Node.js dev to be allowed to run it through the CI that says it will pass. So, folks creating collaborative effort on an idea away from Node.js, from the Node.js repo itself, should be able to know that they are not like imagining it will work because they're using their own tools, right? Their own CI. So yeah, so inheritance or transferability of the CI is, I think, the point. And I'm sure I said it better before in other meetings.
While we don't seem to have a clear, how you said, alternative that we all agree on, where it's like we definitely want to use this as an alternative, there seems to be consensus that GCB run is not ideal. And it's a consistent feeling over the past couple of weeks to months. At the very least, would it be fair to say that our next step here would be to seriously explore alternatives and swap it out for something else?
I think Netlify, the experiment that Ben did, wasn't the only Netlify issue related to this. There were issues open about Netlify already a while back. But basically, when I saw Ben doing Netlify on his end when he was screen sharing once, I basically feel that this is a solution. I don't do a lot of CI stuff, so I personally feel inclined that Netlify potentially could be a solution, as long as we keep in mind that we don't want to complicate the config that you would still need to be on the Node.js repo. That's my only so if we have like the YAML configs in the staging branch, and you fork that branch, and then you have your own Netlify account, and this repo is obviously free, it's open source. I'm hoping we can make sure that this would still allow you to do it free of charge as any user on GitHub. If that's the case, I feel the CI solution is there, and maybe what we want to do is voting whether or not people, not voting, but consensus. Does anybody object to Netlify? Would that be a better way to try to take a step closer next meeting? Or do we want to take a step slower and say we don't have that step yet?
If we can get fast to a solution faster, and it doesn't severely handicap us, I think to the contrary, what's being suggested would actually be an improvement that people would welcome. I think that we could go faster. If Netlify is the proposed solution, reasonable next step could be to just start using it and see if it'll work out.
So can I suggest the idea that was floating in some of the hackathons? Can we create a branch called like temporary staging? And can we make sure that we have privileges to set this up. I know Ben knows how to do that. I'm sure other people on the team are interested, and many would know. But I just don't want us to model this out of the repo itself, and then start hitting all those repo-related challenges. So can we allow people to model this on a branch, a separate branch, and give them authority to do that? I think this is really what's been getting in that way, other than if people have time, obviously.
Are there any permission restrictions right now that would prevent like this action?
So I defer that to someone with some CI experience. I think Ben, I know for sure you kind of know on your end what settings you needed. So
yeah, I think we probably want to do something similar to the way the translation team is doing. They have like a separate bot account, and then that bot account is what connects to the Netlify. And then I think that might be a way to do it. But I think to answer the question, yeah, there is probably maintainer access permissions. I'm not really sure.
Well, if we do follow a model similar to IATN, that's then something that we can probably push through with permissions faster than at least they got it, specifically because we had to work through this.
Right. I do know Netlify has a GitHub app because GitHub has a marketplace. So that's I think how it is set up. So you need to give their app permission into the repo.
So can I suggest we will kind of want one person to have a little bit more permission than the rest of the team. Doing it that way is basically because you don't want not to know who used that permission. So I'm just suggesting having a go-to person at this point to have a little bit more permission to see us through this, and then we can agree on what governance or what structure of permission would be needed to make sure the continuity in the project. There would definitely be a champion or something that can hand the torch as they move to different projects, if that's the case. So does it feel like somebody will need additional permissions? And if that's the case, can we say, can anybody volunteer? Or I would actually volunteer Ben at this point, because I wouldn't know what to do with that permission myself, so I can't volunteer. So yeah.
Is this while we have Alex on the call, and since we are thinking about using the IATN model, Alex, if you're still with us, we're wondering if this model that you use for having a bot to connect to Netlify, what was the rationale behind this? Was it more about maintainability, or like where open source contributors, we didn't necessarily want to put a lot of expectations necessarily on one particular contributor, or was it more a technical solution to the problem that IATN was facing to make their translations available?
I'm still not sure that I understand your questions. So you're asking about bot?
That's right. What was the rationale for using the bot? We seem to be leaning towards using a similar model to allow us to use Netlify.
Okay, so I think I understand. So from my experience, using this kind of model, like have a bot in open source, it's not very comfortable But I'm not sure there are another approach that we can use in open source, because if we ask some specific user to connect their personal account, and if this user stop responding in some way, it will be hard to like give an access to your Netlify account. The same thing with Node.js bot. I spent maybe a few months to figure it out who is the owner of this bot, how to connect, how to integrate, and now I figured out that Zik is owner, and they are stored somewhere in Node.js admin storage, their password in encrypted style. So I'm not sure how it's working, and I'm still have like some blockers with that. But I tried to find another way, but I didn't find anything better than that we have. So I can't actually give you any advice about that. So I just have some doubts, and that's it. So I don't know the best way. Oh, and yeah, so that's it. Does it make
That is very
sense?
helpful. Yeah, that is very helpful for us here, because that is, I think, the essence of the problem we want to avoid. We want to make sure that whatever we put in place right now is not something that will need us or create blockers in the future.
I don't know. Probably I need to research about some login password system for open source, because I don't know how it's possible to like share login password with everyone, but with some limited scope of team. So I don't know how it works. I've never had a chance to find something like this, so I don't know. But yeah, crowding bot, and this model is also contains some problems with access, with time blockers, time wasters. So I don't know.
Yeah. So so on Netlify, there are a number of issues, but actually it's on their Netlify CMS repo about GitHub fork workflow. I think what we're trying to say now, because it's like 20 minutes to the end of the meeting, is that we kind of want to look what Netlify issues related to this kind of workflow look like. Because obviously some other people had a similar desire. And I think they say that when someone who has write access forks a repo, they kind of want to take that work, Netlify build configuration with them. So it becomes like a way for people to contribute and get their deployments or whatever in place. So we want to maybe create an offline discussion, not offline necessarily, but I mean out of the racing hours of the meeting, because someone would champion this, and then we would come back with bullet points. Here's what we're going to do, and those would be in an issue, and then we would seek the consensus, I guess, next meeting. I think this really sounds more like we need to be looking more than trying to describe something without seeing what's out there.
Fair enough. Thank you for helping to time box this, Sally. So as a next action for this one, we're going to put a pin in this and come, if not async, have a discussion. We'll come back to it also next meeting.
Yeah, I think we can discuss setting up that meeting, out-of-box meeting on Slack right after this meeting, okay?
Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds good.
So I am moving on to issue 412. Issue 412 is merge website redesign teams. I believe we've discussed this, but I think the agenda label was re-added because maybe we did not have a resolution. Everyone here, I believe, is part of now the website redesign team. So that is website-redesign/members. Not
Correct.
might be in Node.js-dev. I think unless someone had something to add to this, I might put a pin in this because this seems like the offline discussion was still continuing, and for now we don't seem to have any issues. Any comments before we move on?
No, not from me.
Okay. Let's move on to this one. Issue 333, Node.js.dev, how to install or node demo section. I'm sorry, the title is throwing me off a bit. I'm going to open it up first. I'm dropping the issue in the chat as well. All right. I believe the last comment here was from October. This one, I'm not clear what the intended discussion was for the meeting. If anyone has additional context, please feel free to volunteer it.
Is it the one for the node demo select section?
That's right.
Okay, I don't have any context for that.
Yeah, I think, yeah, so I think Ben and I hacked on this at random times. Right? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm mistaking this, but basically we had a Gatsby flow that was created before the structure of the website, and the idea was they would build a website as contributors added parts of the markdown files that will build to it. But then we had areas in the site that was basically the demo pages as shown in the figure in the op. And the contents there should be coming from markdown files, but it wasn't easy to use the existing pipeline. And I kind of winged it and put together a bastardized pipeline kind of thing. And we want to really implement this better if we're going to go ahead with that feature. So the context here is this is stale. There was probably a PR at some point, and I'm not comfortable with landing my own PR, and I should probably say that in the PR itself. So do we want to, I don't know, like maybe Ben, do you have some input on next steps on this, or do we want to put it on the back burner?
Yeah. Yeah, I did work on this for a bit, but since it was in a draft form, it's still in a draft form, I can't contribute directly to that branch. So I think that's what the problem is. So, but also the code is not in a React way. It looks more jQuery than React.
Yeah,
so yeah, I don't.
jQuery
Yeah,
or
DOM manipulation. Yeah. So yeah, it still needs a lot of work before I would merge it.
Yeah, I wasn't really.
Also, the design, it's kind of moved away from the original design. In the design, there's tabs, but in the implementation, it's a drop-down menu.
Yeah. So I was just seeing what we would need to get this implemented, and
so I would probably start again.
Yeah. So I guess an issue we would open at this point, how do we want to create the second content pipeline? Because the way the content is generated right now, it seems to be learn content. and this is not learned content. Like whatever I was like hacking at with zero knowledge of Gatsby, like I didn't even know it existed maybe a week before that. Um, that was my best approximation with limited know-how and documentation accessibility.
Right. So with Gatsby, we have a plugin for Markdown. That's what the learned content is using. So we should do the same. Maybe we can make a homepage since this is part of the homepage.
And putting
I think for each tab, because each tab is a how to install for a specific OS.
Yeah.
Have text for one file for each tab. And yeah, so that's kind of already set up. So there shouldn't be any need, we shouldn't need to do any kind of new work for like as a pipeline to parse Markdown into HTML.
So can I clarify what I was hitting is that we're doing like wildcard pipeline. So I was running into this problem where it started like showing up in Learn. Things are like getting in Learn, and things are showing up where I completely, like understood now how Gatsby worked. That's how I learned anything, but then I didn't know if there's a convention, if that because the file naming convention, everything being numbered and named in a one folder.
Yeah.
Those are kind of high level challenge. Yeah.
I don't know who did the numbering like that. It's not really scalable. Because what happens when you want to add something between like 4 and 5? You have to renumber everything past 5.
Yeah, I think the context was collecting from many people who were at Vancouver and on the tail end on that. So like I said, the structure of the website itself did not exist when they created all these things, and then they designed the workflow around it. So maybe restructuring that folder where we have all these subfolders and making a folder for Learn, a folder for, putting contents in folders that represent the hierarchy, the logical hierarchy, would be a good step to say that a minimal configuration does not leave people with, hitting this unknown inference of a wildcard. Because adding a folder for something that is not learned should not also add it in Learn. That was the.
In the interest of time, I wonder if I could gently suggest that this discussion, it seems like it could be had async.
Yeah.
At least that's my impression. Would it be all right if we move to the next item so we could get covered?
Yep.
Thanks. I am just going to drop 261 into the chat. That is the download grid item. We'll keep comments here to 3 minutes or so. It's okay to leave the agenda label on this one and the previous one as well, should the conversation want to continue at the next meeting. Any latest context from folks who have been working on the download grid or want to work on the download grid?
I was going to work on the download releases page, but I didn't have time yet. I'm going to pick up this weekend.
Super. I'll just make a note of that here. Is this something that you're doing collaboratively, or?
No, last weekend it was the last hackathon. I couldn't manage to go to the last meeting. So I don't know if another person is taking a look into that right now. If Ben or Saleh or Alex know if anyone is doing the downloads page, the releases
no.
page?
No.
I don't think anybody's doing it. They're that page.
Okay. Well, as far as I know, no one was doing that page, so that's why I picked it. And because I forgot his name, I forgot. Someone suggested that should be our priority. I don't remember now.
I believe John was working on this
Oh
last
yeah.
something. But yeah, it is also in our OKRs because the download grid is one of the most used features in the existing website, and like essentially we're reproducing that so that we can get this out the door. Cool. So I've just updated here that you're taking this, and we can move on to issue 127 since we have 5 minutes left. Issue 127 is how do we want to add new members? Miles opened this a while ago. I think our process here has been, if folks want to contribute, we give them access. There hasn't been much gatekeeping as far as I'm aware. Did anyone feel like adding something new to this? I believe the person who added the agenda label isn't here today. Alrighty. Did I hear breathing? It might just be south.
No, I was going to say that since he is not here right now, we probably should let this to be discussed on the next meeting. I don't know if it's okay for you guys.
Agreed. I'll leave the label on so they can take a look next time. That's okay with me. And we are ending the meeting with 4 minutes to go, which is really good for us. We're typically like very much on the cusp of the hour. I'm going to pause the recording. I mean, stop it for now and then upload it to YouTube later since we weren't able to live stream.